Japandi-Style is a mix of Scandinavian and Japanese styles. It's very popular. I use ideogram, and this whole video will be dedicated to creating Japandi-style living rooms with ideogram. It's a process. I'm going to go through pretty much everything I do to create all kinds of interior designs with ideogram, and this will be restricted to Japandi living rooms. So I usually start a design with a very general, broad prompt. Anything that you're asking AI to do is called a prompt. And you put this in here. So I usually like to add the word luxury just because it'll make it nicer. And then we hit generate. After about 30 seconds, this is what we get. We get 4 images. Now I should clarify, this is how I set up the settings, and you can definitely play around with this. I like more of a horizontal look for interior designs, but you can play around with those as well. And I go with auto. Realistic can sometimes generate some interesting stuff for interior design as well, but this is my general settings for it. So as you can see, we got basic Japandi. These are okay. It's a decent starting point. And what you can do is you can take this prompt right here and you can work off that, or you can turn to some other AI and create more complex prompts. So now I'm in ChatGPT, which I use a lot as well. And I started it right here. I said, I want to create high-end Japandi living room, blah, blah, blah. You can basically say exactly what it is you want. Now, the thing about AI and interior design right now, and this is why it's really not as practical as we'd like in terms of working with clients. It's good for some ideas, but it's really not going to get to the execution point. And that is, for instance, if I say 2 sofas and then an armchair, it's not going to get that right, okay? And a lot of things, the dimensions are going to be a little bit off. Really, what I like AI for this design stuff is to come up with color schemes and ideas, and then you can really fine tune it and do your usual process to get to the execution point. So it has its use, but AI is not there in terms of basically a one-stop shop for full client design, or your own home design for that matter. But anyways, here's what it spit out. So ChatGPT is going to get a lot more detailed, and it created this right here. And then you would copy this, and we'll move back to ideogram, and we're going to regenerate. And this is the result. This is definitely leaning more toward Japandi. What I don't care for is large windows. So I would go into maybe pick the best one and edit the prompt, go with smaller windows or whatever effect it is that you're looking for. Now, ChatGPT isn't the only one that can do this. There's also Claude. And Claude is also very cool, and I put in the exact same prompt and it will create basically a prompt for me. You could try both of these. I don't need the dimensions, and we'll prompt this in here and we'll see what comes of that. Here are the results. As you can see, it's quite a bit different than what the ChatGPT one created, which is super interesting. So really, when you're using AI, it takes so little time to generate this. It's a lot about trial and error and trying to figure out exactly what you want to do. You're drilling down, getting ideas and so forth. So you can constantly, we could go into here and we could go in and we can edit the prompt all we would want, and it'll generate something else for us. Maybe we want to knock out a chair. Now again, when you try to get really specific, like the number of pieces of furniture and get really specific details, AI is not that good for that, and that's unfortunate, but eventually it will get to that point. Next up is we can actually work off existing images, which for a lot of homeowners is really key because you have a photo of your room and you'd like to get ideas on how to remodel that, and AI can be a huge help with that. So I have an image right here, and I just drop it over here. Now you can only add one image into here, and then you can prompt it and you could ask for it to change whatever it is that you want to change. Let's say, let's infuse this design with Japandi style. And let's see what happens. Here, the top row are the results, and I'm not even close to impressed with that. So I don't really care for that model so much, but there are other ways we can deal with this. So a good example would be, we could take the same image and we could upload it to ChatGPT, and we could say, describe this room in detail, and it'll do that. Okay, and then what we do is we would say, turn that into a prompt for ideogram to create a mix of that image with Japandi style. Try that. So now we basically asked ChatGPT to create a prompt for us for ideogram and see what it comes up with. We'll just copy that over. And these results are much, much better. In fact, I think that's striking, and it resembles roughly the image that we put in, but it's a complete makeover. So next up, we'll take the same image and we'll upload that here. And we are going to remix this. Okay, this is another way. This you can prompt, because this is a very powerful feature. So basically, if you want to get ideas from an existing room, but you don't really know where to start, then you upload an image like this and you can give it different weights. Okay, so really low here is going to create quite a different design than what's there, than say if you went over to 80. Let's go at 50 and let's see what it does. Here are the top row of the results. As you can see, it's a fairly strong resemblance still to the original. So I'm going to do another one and drop the weight of the image considerably. Do a remix. Let's drop it down to 20. This is a neat feature if you have your room, you got photos, and you just want to start getting different ideas. You can play around with the prompts too to try to mix that up even more. And there we are. So we're not getting a huge amount of change, but we are getting different ideas for that particular room. So this is more of a nuanced approach. I thought the ChatGPT prompt, these ones here, generated something quite a bit different if you're looking for a radical change. Well, so far we've been doing images one at a time, doing various prompts, and usually you're going to get the better results with this process, but it is trial and error. But let's suppose that you have a client or you just want to get an absolute ton of ideas really quickly. You could use Ideogram's batch feature. You can see I've done a few here. So what that does is it allows you to create a whole bunch of prompts, as many as you want. Well, there's probably some limit at some point, but I did 2 batches of 20. You can get the template right here, and the template looks like this. So this is what you want to do. This is where you would load in your prompts, and you want all different prompts there. I would set it all to private. And then your aspect ratio, I tend to work in the 16:9, but you might prefer different sizes. And then the magic prompt, I just I keep it as auto. And what I ended up with is I did a whole set of prompts from ChatGPT and I loaded them in here, and I did a whole set from Claude. Both of those are AI, basically like chat processors. And you could go into ChatGPT and you can basically prompt it. I did up here. Here's what I did. Took a few iterations. This is the one thing about AI is you constantly will have to, reprompt to get things to be the way you want it. So I kept it really simple. List out 20 different Japandi living room design ideas with considerations of fusing with different styles and different color schemes and different features. Write them as prompts for Ideogram. And there you go. It spat this out. It had the word prompt in there. I didn't really want this because I just want to be able to copy and paste that into this sheet. And then so I had it redo this. I took that and I pasted it here, redid this, and it generated my entire batch of creations. And I will quickly run through them. They're down here. They start here. Now, these are the Claude versions at the top. Each row is a set, and then eventually we get to ChatGPT. So they're all very, very different. And it's really almost like a numbers game. You're just throwing out tons of different prompts. You can, of course, get much more scientific and more specific with this to create different ideas. But if you're starting in a vacuum with no ideas, you can just play around with all sorts of ideas. I love Japandi mix with like the ski chalet, the rustic look. I think that's a really effective look. There's a modern farmhouse design that I thought turned out really well as well. Here's something that these turned out really nicely. And so this was done with bulk creation, which is really fast. Here we go. Here's our modern farmhouse. This is probably my most preferred one of the whole set that I did. It's a very nice design. And briefly, here's some of my favorite ones that I was creating with Ideogram all day. You can see they're quite diverse, and that's because what I did is I fused the prompts with Japandi. So they're not just straight up Japandi, but they're mixtures with other interior design styles. Some work, some don't work at all. These are just some of the favorites of the 60 or 70 I created. I'm going to end this video with a very simple solution to a problem that you're probably thinking about when creating with AI, and that is it creates a piece of furniture or something, a table that you really like, but where do you buy it? All right, let's say you really like this chair here. What I do, and it's not 100% effective, but I would say it's about 90% effective. I screenshot that chair and I go to Google, and there's a Google Lens. So you can just search for Google Lens, and I take the screenshot, load it in. There we go. A whole bunch of chairs that look very similar, which is, it's quite amazing actually just how good it is. It's almost every time I find something that's fairly close to what was generated in AI. So that basically helps make AI really effective in terms of find something, a certain design that you created on there that you really like, a color scheme, more importantly, furniture ideas, and you can almost always go and buy it. That's a wrap on Ideogram and creating Japandi-style living rooms. A really good tip when you're prompting especially for interior design, is to get creative with mixing it. If you just keep putting in the same old Japandi living room, you'll get different living rooms for sure, but they're going to start really looking very similar. The idea is to mix and match it with different ideas and different styles, different colors, different descriptors, different adjectives, and play around with that until you sort of zone in on exactly the style that you're looking for, and then you can play around even more. You can remix that specific style for your use. So you could take this here, okay, let's say we really like this, but it's just not quite perfect. Let's say we wanted a different, we could try this. Again, remember the changing like a specific item in there is not always so effective, but we could drop our image weight down there and we could do a remix and see what happens. There's our results right here, all along the top. A little bit different, still like all of them. And that is ideogram for Japandi living rooms. Thanks for watching.